Well, boys, here we are. A Race Communique. I feel like this has been a long month. I've got to welcome my two guests here, Luke Durbridge from Jaco Alula and Tom Southam, who from EF Easy Posts, who are just on the eve of the Tour de France. They've got their buzz cuts. I wish you guys could see this. It looks like you guys just are, about to go in across to do a boot camp and military training. You've got the short back and sides. You're looking very trim, actually looking very summer. That's probably what it is.
I think it's the fact that you're just...
it's hot here.
Yeah, you're freezing your nuts off and we've got short hair and vests on. And that's the thing, mate.
I think it's the wife beater singlet that Tom's got on. That with the dog chain that's really giving it away.
This is my pre-tour look, man. I have to be in proper uniform for like every day for a month. So I'm...
You're one of those directors that actually talk the talk, though. You talk the talk. Like, you're the fit director who's like, look, mate, like, you got to just, your rider rocks up to the tour and he's fat. And you're like, look, I didn't even turn up fat. I'm ready to go. Like, I can take your place if you need to be.
Put me on the start line.
Could you actually fathom
Put me in, I'm ready.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, my God. Well, guys, this is a Life of the Peloton production made possible by our partner MAAP, but the Race Communique is exclusively being brought to you by our friends over at the Escape Collective. Look, the Escape Collective guys put together the fantasy competition league that we dipped our toe in during the Giro. We had a bit of fun, but we didn't necessarily cruise through it, did we? We're experts, but we were sort of learning the system as well. Boys, can you remember back to the Giro and dipping your toe into the fantasy league?
I can.
We weren't very good, so yeah.
I agree with Durbo. I think it was good to get a practice run in, just to get our mistakes out of the way early on. I think we can do much better this time, lads. That I'm sure. I mean, the first thing I have to do, to be honest with you, is remember my password to get in. Somehow I've got myself locked out. Because
you were saying we're going to verse the Escape Collective and the Life of the Peloton. Tom, if you don't log in correctly, you'll be on the other side.
Well, I'll be getting the auto picks every day then, and I'll be in big trouble. So
it could be a good tactic. Durbo's already alluded to it. Just in case you're unaware, just like the Giro, you pick a rider. What the fantasy league is, you pick one rider per stage who you think's going to win. But you can only choose one rider. We can only choose a rider once. Each rider gets points based on their placing, and whoever picks riders who accumulate the most points wins. There's prizes on offer. This is what's going to make it interesting, because the Escape Collective reckon they know their stuff. And they said, we're going to take on the Life in the Peloton League. It's the Escape Collective League who own the whole fantasy competition versus the Life in the Peloton. I think we've got this covered. Looking at who we had in our league, in the Giro, plus if we actually try a little bit, boys, we're going to do this.
I mean, if you're a connoisseur, this is where you're listening, Mitch. So our league is definitely going to come out on top, mate.
Like I said, there is actually prizes. The Tour de France Factor Edition, Tour de France Edition Factor Frame plus Black Ink wheels, grand prizes for the overall winners. You got to go across to the escapecollective.com/LITP to join for further instructions on how you can get on the Life in the Peloton mini league and kick these Escape Collective guys out of the park. I'm excited, boys.
I feel like there should be like triple points if you can pick Cav on the day that he gets stage number 35.
Totally.
How cool would that be?
Good point.
It's going to happen surely on one day. Which is the day most likely for Cav to win? And I mean, we can all use him once, right? Got to find it.
It's going to be tricky.
Let's recap what this show is. In case anyone's new to it, this is the Race Communique, where Luke Durbridge is a rider in the World Tour at the moment, heading across the Tour de France. Tom Southam is a sports director in the World Tour, and I'm a has-been who used to race but now is just asking those questions. We're going to be talking about racing. Durbo's going to give us a bit of Pelo chat, and Southam is going to sling us some talking tactics at the end. But this time, we're going to be talking about the Tour de France. I like a good preview just as much as everyone else does. This is what we're going to do in this week's Race Communique. Before we kick off, I want to have a shout out to Peloton Legal over there in WA, Durbo, right from around the corner of you. These guys are a legal firm who are all interested in everything outside of what they do as well. They're interested in being active, riding, running, playing tennis, playing golf. This is an environment that you want to work in because they understand that having your best on the ground involves doing stuff outside of, practicing legal stuff. Derbs, over there in WA, you guys run a good Peloton.
Yeah, we run a good Peloton. We run a tight ship there. So, yeah, I mean, why not just get your legal advice there as well? I mean, there's actually not much I can say bad about WA. So if they're from WA, that's enough for me, sign me up.
Well, let's get into this. Let's crack in. Should we talk about my segment now, racing? I want to do a really quick wrap up of racing. And look, I know some of these races have got a bit of date on them. We're talking about the Dauphiné, talking about Tour de Suisse, Slovenia, and the Nationals that just happened now. The reason why I want to talk about these races in the month of June mean so much for the big parade that's just about to happen, the Tour de France. Let's rewind back to the Dauphiné. Primož Roglič took it out. Matteo Jorgensen was second, and Derek G was in at third. For me, standout performance from that race was Alexander Vlasov. In the sprints, we had Mads Pedersen, Magnus Cort, and Sam Bennett was back up there again, which was good to see. Remco Evenepoel. Coming out of that race, boys, quick comment. For me, the standout for me was Jorgensen. What he was able to do there really gave me hang on. Didn't think this guy was going to be able to do 3 weeks. I loved what he was doing there. For me, the kink in the armor was Roglic. That last stage really put a question mark on him heading to the Tour.
I was at the Dauphiné, and from what I actually went home with COVID actually on the day of the TT, unfortunately, so I didn't really get to see the true mountain stages. But from what I saw, which was curious, was Remco's an absolute weapon when it comes to the TT. No one's really going to touch him at the Tour. I mean, I'm even thinking Pogačar, Jonas, Remco's just deadly. But when it comes to going into the mountains, I mean, he did fall apart quicker than I had expected. And I mean, I know he's had his crash and his injury and he's going to be better at the Tour, but for a full squad behind him for the Tour, I don't think going to go the distance. But with Bora, which was really interesting, they have such a strong squad. We know how good Jai Hindley can be over 3 weeks. Vlasov, as you mentioned, Roglic. I know Roglic sort of faltered the last day and just held on, but they've got 3 options there and it's pretty bloody strong. So, yeah, I mean, from what I saw at Dauphiné, guys are ready, but are still coming back after that. That Bass crash has really been the talking point for this sort of lead up. Everyone is pretty much that whole GC group we talk about, other than Pogačar, got wiped out on that crash, and they're all taking their time to come back. Obviously, Rogelic's bounced back probably the quickest. He won Dauphiné, but with Remco in that crash, Jonas in that crash, Roglic, a lot of those guys are still coming back. So another couple of weeks, be interesting to see what happens at the start line of the Tour.
Yeah, I mean, for me, the Dauphiné, the big story was Derek G. I mean, the fact that he just managed to finally absorb all of those breaks and all the TSS from the Giro last year. And basically now he hasn't touched his bike since then. And now it's basically all of a sudden a contender.
GC contender.
Yeah, that's all you have to do. Just do 1 Giro in the break every day. And then you're going to pop up good from that. So, yeah, great race.
Well, let's move on to the Tour de Suisse then, because total domination from UAE with our good old friend Adam Yates winning that, Joao Almeida finishing second, his teammate, and Matthias Skelmos, he was in at third. The standout for me was Matthew Riccitello from Israel Premier Tech. In the sprints, Cockard and Matthews, if you could call them sprints there, I don't even know if you'd really call them sprints, I guess hard men sprints. And the TT, we saw Yves Lampard and Joao Almeida. There were 2 TTs there, but the last one was an uphill TT. Coming out of that, guys, I'll throw straight to you, Southam. What's your feelings coming out of that, looking towards the Tour?
I mean, that was a sort of a strange race for us because we lost Alberto and Carapaz both on the same day. So the day that Alberto was in the race leader's jersey, both Richard and him went home at the same time. So, I mean, and Stefan had been up there in the first TT. So everything was actually going really nicely from our perspective. But then we lost a few days of racing there. So it's a little bit of a black cloud over that race for us. And obviously once, I was at Slovenia and sort of focused on that. And then once your attention gets diverted from your riders, I just had half an eye on kind of what UAE guys were doing. And I think yes, it's impressive. But again, it's like, it's let's say only 40% of it or 45% of the Tour peloton, because you've also got the Dauphiné, you've also got Slovenia. So it's not like UAE are going to expect to just go and ride 1, 2, 3 at the podium in the Tour de France now. It was interesting to see them so dominant. Again, Swiss is that little bit closer to the Tour. So
one of the impressive things I thought was to see Adam Yates back after that crash at UAE. I mean, he had a big concussion in UAE and we didn't see him again for the rest of the spring. And then obviously he's just been down in Sierra Nevada like the Yates boys do, just training the house down. And yeah, he dominated. Like he did that easy. I mean, there's no easy bike races, and like Tom said, the field maybe wasn't as strong there, but still, it's positive for what happened last time on the Tour. You know, Adam Yates was on the podium behind Pogačar, last man for Pogačar. Pogačar must have been pretty happy seeing Adam be at such a level going into the Tour, to have such a reliable teammate that he could also be on the podium at the Tour as well. So they look ready, UAE, and they look probably the most ready out of any other team, I'd say, going into the Tour.
I mean, the interesting thing for me, I think, is like, even it's almost like what's happened between the races, not the races, because it's like, what's Pogačar been up to since the Giro, you know, in terms of the way that he's handling the workload of trying to do the Giro Tour double, how he's trained in between the two races. I think that would be super interesting to see. I mean, maybe it's out there on the internet or whatever, but that's the key, is like his recovery from the Giro, because everybody's kind of assuming that this is not a done thing, but I think the way that he's going to have to tackle the Tour is going to be interesting, getting all the way to that third week. So while everyone else has been racing, he's been training, recovering, which is, another interesting factor of what's going on.
I think also the fact that you just mentioned then is also, you know, Jonas Vingegaard, he's also hasn't raced. You know, he's coming in fresh too. So like a different scenario, but again, stuff we don't know about, this unknown about two of the major guys. Guys that we're not talking about. Should we talk about the other little race that was happening as well, where Tom Southam was on the ground? I like Slovenia, don't get me wrong. I featured a few times there myself just before I had a big old fat juicy break in July. Slovenia was a nice little swan song.
It's a good race. It's a great little race. Like in terms of like nice country, good racing. It's the first time I've ever been, and I was really impressed by it, I have to say.
Well, I feel like looking at this race now, before it never really used to be, I don't feel like a bit of a hit out before the Tour, but Giovanni Aliotti, he won the race. Peo Bilbao, he was second, and Julio Pellizzari, fresh from the Giro, who had fantastic form at the Giro, he was in at third. The standout for me was Ben Healy, EF Ride. I want to hear from Tom about that in a minute. In the sprints also, I liked watching the sprints there. Groenewegen was looking very good, Christoph as well, and Bauhaus. Boys, Slovenia, let's hear from Durbo. What's your thoughts before we go to Tom about, I guess, Groenewegen coming out of Slovenia, a teammate of yours heading to the Tour?
He's sort of 3 from 3 at the moment. I mean, we did a race in Limburg probably a couple of weeks ago and he won that pretty comfortably against De Lee, which was a big sort of confidence boost after being second in the day before. And then the next opportunity he had was day one of Slovenia and he wrapped that up. And then other than that, the rest of the time was too difficult for the sprints. It was never a true sprint after that in Slovenia. And then he just went to the national titles. And I mean, to win the national title is massive for Groenewegen. He had 2 other teammates, which is still not as many as probably Jumbo and Lotto had. And he wrapped that up and won that. So he's coming in with some sweet form, a few little changes in his training. I think he's doing a lot more sprints now. Maybe he's not climbing as well as he was last year, but who cares? When he gets to the finish, he's rapid. He put away Olav Koy in the Nationals. So for us, we're very excited about how he's coming in, and he's, you know, all those sprinters, all they need is a bit of confidence, you know, and once they get that confidence going, it's pretty good.
Has he got his jersey made yet? When's that going to come? Friday, Thursday's team presentation.
Mate, it's going to be tight. We just changed we got full new kit this year for the Tour. So bloody EF has ruined everyone. You know, they do all those special releases for Tour now. Everyone's jumping on board. You know,
on the bandwagon, boys.
Nightmare.
Man, we've got two national titles. We've got to get the jerseys made. I was like, when the results were rolling in, I was just sat there laughing about all these poor guys having to go. Like, oh God, jerseys to make. Like, and like, it's not like you can just make a jersey, right? You have to make the full road suit now, and it has to be legit. You can't just throw one together with some Lycra, you know?
Oh yeah, it has to be like fast and fitted, and with all the million alterations the riders have.
Yeah.
Tell us, Southam, Slovenia on the ground. Ben Healy was on fire there. What was the feeling there?
Ben had come to the race like, he'd come from a good training block. But, he's had his eye on the Tour all year, as sort of like a normal progression from where he was last year. Did the Giro, won a stage there. Obviously wants to go to the Tour, so a lot of his year has been sort of focused around that. And Slovenia was a nice sort of course for him. We gave him carte blanche to try for the GC, which was all going to be determined on the long sort of climbing stage. And unfortunately, he had a bit of an off the day before, and I think he was sort of just suffered a little bit from that. So he came out of the stage 4, I think it was the penultimate stage, a bit disappointed. And then we hatched this plan to let's just give it everything on the last day, pop someone in the break, see if Ben can get across to it from quite far, actually. I think it was 60 Ks to go he went. It was one of those things in the car. It's like he went and it was all working out. He came back from the break to get him, and then he got to the break, and it's just have these moments when you're like, it's not quite got the gap yet. It's not. This isn't quite. Not sure that you're hanging at 15 seconds, and then you can see the bunch, like the gap's gone out, and then they start to think and reorganize. Because at one point he had Bilbao with him, and Bilbao actually sat up and went back to the bunch. Ben is like, if he gets caught now, it's kind of, with most guys, once they've made that effort, when they do get caught, it's over. It's like, that was a chance. But then he sort of almost got caught, and then just sort of stayed away over the climb, and then
kept going.
And he kept coming back to him. But what he managed to do was make the race basically single-handedly so hard that when he did go, everyone just went, all right, just like, we've had enough. And I mean, when he's in that mode, it's like, he reminds me a lot, like of just Thomas de Gent, the way that de Gent could just go and then just go and just
So you're going to say me?
yeah. 2007 Mitch Stocker at the Creswick Handicap or whatever it was.
I don't even know if I could have done that. I don't know if I could have done that in any race that I've ever done. Maybe if I went back and raced juniors.
But I think now. I think he almost has a blind spot, because at one point he was pulling Mohoric and somebody else and Bilbao towards the line without even looking for a turn. And he said, Ben, sort of, what were you doing there? And he's like, I didn't know they were behind me. It's like, this is kind of...
Mohoric?
Yeah.
Like, if anyone's going to give you a turn, that guy, you want to get a turn from him.
Yeah. But, I mean, it was great. It was great. I mean, he's a really great guy to have around and a good leader for the guys. So pleased to see him ready for the Tour.
All right, boys. Let's take a little break there, and we will come back with a little bit of Pelo talk from Durbo before we sort of start talking about some stages and a few of these GC guys. But that's been a nice little wrap up. Oh, before we get to that, I do want to make quick mention of the Nationals. Not that this changes much about the Tour de France hopefuls, but it just sort of, it's nice to recap on who's been doing well in their own championships. I love this time of year because you flick on the race on that Sunday and there is a million races on, and you can just sort of watch all the results roll in or catch a bit of racing. Our good friend Mike Woods takes the Canadian champs out. Alberto Bettiol wins the Italian champs. Durbo's already mentioned about Groenewegen winning the Dutchies, and Arnaud Delis takes out Jasper Philipsen in the Belgian champs. They're sort of the four that I sort of stood out to me. It's good to see Woodsy get back up. He's had a bit of a troubling year with some gut issues. And Bettiol, he's had a fantastic year this year. And I feel like coming into the Tour, especially that stage 1, we'll get to it in a minute, he's going to be on, cloud 9, Southam.
Yeah, it's been a big thing for him to wear the Italian jersey to the Tour de France for a start in his hometown in Florence. I mean, can you imagine how big that is for him? And I'm so pleased that he's managed to pick things off and do things, because he's winning consistently now, which isn't something we ever saw from him before. It's like he would pop up and do something amazing, but the consistency of putting the ball in the back of the net is what's been missing, and he's smashing them in this year so far.
All right, guys, we're here with Pelo Chat today. Mitch is going to ask me some questions about making a Tour de France team. So maybe you fire in. I mean,
I can just fire straight in, Durbo, because look, it's something that I really attempted hardcore once in 2019, I think it was. Really sort of went, I'm going to get asked this question for the rest of my life. Do I ever ride the Tour de France? How about I actually try and make the tour? I didn't make it that year. But I went full gas for it, and it was a plan from the start of the year, which often is for riders. It doesn't just pop into your head at the last minute. Oh, I might ride the tour next month. That's a good idea. Hey, guys, Southam, is there any spots left in the tour? Do you reckon I can ride that? It's a big process. Durbo, having ridden, how many tours have you ridden actually? Off the top of my head.
This is number 10.
10. I was going to say 9. 10 tours. So maybe it doesn't apply to you as much anymore, but I think it does. What I want to ask you is, get inside a rider's head making a tour team. What are the stresses around that? And I'm talking about the physical stresses. How far out does the planning go? The training, how much does that ramp up? But also inside your training bubble, your family, everyone around you, that stress around it. Like, you got to change your life. I'm trying to get in the tour, or I'm in the tour team. Everything is for me to go to the tour. Tell me about making a Tour de France team.
Well, I think, was it 2013? I remember watching Froomey. That was the first time they had the Champs-Élysées under lights. It was pretty late. I remember watching it, and I actually went and watched a few stages down near Andorra, and I was already pro. I was second year pro at that time, and I thought I got to go. That's where I want to go next year. That's what I got to go. And I think I remember calling Matthew White, and just said, look, what do I got to do to try and make the tour team next year? Whitey was
he at the tour then?
He was at the tour.
When you called him?
No, it was when he got back. It wasn't that night. He was in the car. Like, I'm busy right now.
Whitey's important.
I'm busy.
It's important, mate.
Fucking Neo Pro's calling me. How's the audacity on the Neo Pro? Telling Whitey what I want to do. But I think it was more, I had got a lot to thank for Whitey for that, because he gave me a lot of experience early on when I probably maybe wasn't up for it. Like, I was doing a good job, but maybe I wasn't like at Tour de France level, but he sort of thought that I would be. So he kept giving me the chance pretty early on. I did the Giro, and it was pretty crazy. If you think about third year pro, I did the Giro, and then I did a good job there. And Whitey's like, yeah, mate, just keep training and keep your head on after the Giro. We might need you for the tour. And I'm like, okay, sweet. So yeah, and then I got that phone call the week out from the tour. After I'd done, I might have done Tour Suisse. It was a pretty big block, and then he's like, "Yeah, we're going to take you to the tour," and I just was like, could not believe it. I was just beside myself, like it was just one of these overwhelming emotions. Like, I don't know if I'm ready. And then we went to the UK, and I mean, other than probably Copenhagen, it's probably the most people we've ever seen at a bike race. And talk about getting overwhelmed in your first Tour de France is like race through Yorkshire with about 2 million people on the side of the road. And I was just like, but then once I'd done that, I was like, this is the big show. This is the big show. And it's stressful, and it should be hard team to make. And it should be like sort of obsessed about for months at time to try and get ready for it. But like, because it is the big show, that's what it needs to be. I think it shouldn't be easy, and you shouldn't take it for granted. So once I do the classics, regardless how the classics go, I have about a couple of weeks off. And then I go, right, let's go, let's get ready. And that's the goal, to make sure that I'm in the best possible shape, probably by the Dauphiné, because if you're not in good shape at the Dauphiné, you won't get selected for the tour, especially in my role. Like, I need to be solid. So I'm always in good, solid shape at the Dauphiné. And then got the phone call a couple of days ago from Whitey. He always calls me. It's nice. 10 years he's called me. It's been quite nice. He calls me, "Hey, Durbo, you ready to do another lap of France with me?" I like to be on my toes. And Whitey never had said you're going or you're not going. For him, he probably presumed that I knew that I might be going. But I like to be like, what do I need to do? And my coach actually knows that, Marco Pinotti. He knows I like to be on my toes. He's like, look, like at Dauphiné, I got COVID, but he said, if you're not top 10 in the TT, you're not going to the tour. Which, I'm not going to the tour to do TTs, but it's like, keep him on the toes, keep him working hard, keep him like a little bit of fear, a little bit of like, make sure you do your job. And I take that on board. Like, I know I've got to be there for Dylan or there for Yatesy or things like that. And So yeah, it's a really nice moment when they call you and they said, you know, you're going to the Tour de France, and it's just as special as it was before. I don't fear the tour like probably when I got the first couple of phone calls. Still makes you a little bit nervous, and I think I don't fear the physicality of the tour in terms of getting to the finish. I fear doing the right job at the right time under the pressure. Like it's getting there at the right moment to make the right call, because a lot of guys are following you. You know, like Yates is trusting you, or Dylan's trusting you, or Matthews is trusting you to make that corner at the right time, so he's not in danger and not in safe, and you know, perfect lead out or whatever you want. That's what makes me nervous, being able to do that, because physically I think I'm up for the challenge. It's just if you make the right call under all the circumstances and the pressure of the tour. So,
what about around Girona or Andorra or wherever you're training? And this is just you speak about your bubble, but how it changes your training bubbles, the riders that you're with. Because at the certain time of year, and I alluded to when I was doing Slovenia, it's a period of break for a lot of guys. The summer's coming, so you got one end of the spectrum, riders just like, oh, I'm ready just to have head down the beach, have a bit of time off, and then you're like tightening the screws. Does your training group change? Do you start stressing it out? People don't want to ride with you, that sort of thing, or how's it all sort of? Does it change at all? Like I'm just trying to remember back when we were riding together. Probably still going toe to toe, but
probably. I mean, you never really rode easy ever. But like the other day, for example, I was riding with Hepburn. He's just done the Giro, and Shane Archibald, who's now director of Bora, and like we were going to I'm going to stop for coffee down the beach, you know. And I'm like, well, I got some efforts to do, so how about I ride you down there? You guys go for coffee. I'll meet you back here in half an hour, you know. So I didn't stop. I just went and did my efforts. Did the climbs, come back 30 minutes later, picked them up, we all rode home together. You know, like there's little things that you do, but I don't feel like it's turning the screws, because I guess I've done it for so many years now, like 10 years in a row I've done the tour. It doesn't feel like this time is a break period for me, because it's my period of like being focused, and my break period's August, September. Like that's that time where I feel like I can go down the beach and be a bit more relaxed and chill out. Like for June, May, June is my really work hard period, and it's always been the same for the last 10 years. So I don't feel like it's a sacrifice, you know. I'm not like pinning the screws. It's just, I just do it. Like that's what it is, you know. Like we did a cool session the other day. You would have loved this, Mitch. So Mark Quad, he's a trainer at Green Edge.
Here we go.
I designed it. So I said a couple of years ago, I thought the best I ever feel is the first corner of the national title when I've done 3 bay crits.
Oh, here we go.
So
here we go. Is this one of your old crits again?
So
I designed.
I got it back because I didn't finish the Dauphiné. I said to Marco, look, I'm going to need that really, rip the Band-Aid off, bay crit style. And so we went out to the Garmin service course. Tom, your bus driver was just watching us just haul ass for an hour past. Awesome. And I designed a crit course. It had 3 climbs in it. It had a U-bolt, an actual full-on U-bolt. And I just said, all right, I had a speaker on my bike, like with some good tunes. And I was all like carbed up and ready. Like I actually rode like an hour with Tim Decker was actually in town, so it was kind of normal. I rode an hour with him, like right into the bay crits. And then he just...
You're nuts.
Tim goes to me, oh, can I come watch? I'm like, sure. So Timmy's on the side of the road, and Quaddy just destroyed me for an hour, full on crit style. So yeah, I did my...
Mate, I could have got all the staff from the tour out to watch for you. I could have got, if you'd told me, I could have got the whole...
Mate, they were there.
Could have
they couldn't understand what was going on. We were just flying past the service course every 5 minutes. But yeah, so that's the thing, like, I realize how hard you have to be and like sharp and ready for the tour, and you got to respect it. You definitely got to respect it. But one thing I will say is that when you mentioned the riding group, being with like on race at Dauphiné, that is just all you talk about. And it's about who's going to the tour. Oh, did you hear this person might not go to the tour? And there's always someone that misses out, and that's like really tricky. It's really hard because that side of things, Mitch, when you put a lot of effort into it, like you become a time trialist actually in 2019 with the amount of effort you put in to get into the tour, and then you don't get the phone call and you don't go. It's like it's really tricky. So it's so special to a lot of people. And if you were to be like, yeah, I'm going, which I've seen a lot of guys like that, eventually they don't go anymore because they just took it for granted. You got to not take it for granted. You got to work just as hard. You never go on until you get your plane ticket. That's sort of the way I always treat it, you know?
Well, let's talk about some riders that are going and give us a bit of a top 5 pick. I think it's interesting to have a quick talk about Froome's top 10. Chris Froome isn't going to the Tour de France this year, but he did a pretty good article on the Escape Collective that I caught an eye over leading into this podcast. He's picked Pogačar, Vingegaard, Roglic, Jorgensen, Evenepoel, Yates, Adam Yates, that is, Vlasov, Rodriguez, Bernal, and G. That's his top 10. I've put a bit of a top 5 together myself, and I think I'm going to run in this order. Pogačar, Roglic, Almeida, Evenepoel, Vingegaard. That's my top 5. Boys, what are you thinking?
Pogačar, Derek G, Roglic, Remco, Rodriguez. I might got to chuck him in.
Derek G.
I'm going to chuck him in everything now.
We're a big fan of Derek G. He's a good guy. What am I going to go? I'm going to go Pogačar. Is Geraint Thomas going?
Yeah.
He is.
Ooh, it's tricky, this one. I'm going to go Pogačar, Vingegaard, and I think I'm going to throw in Simon Yates in the 3rd place there. And I'm going to go his brother in 4th, so it's going to be just a flip of last year. And in 5th place, I'm going Jai Hindley.
What'd you even mention Thomas for then?
Just was curious if he was
support role, just knowing he's getting supported, just to know.
Yeah.
Is Thomas going? Yeah, he is. Yeah. Okay, anyway, back to my top 5.
You know, one dark horse.
I was going to throw him in there, but then I just thought, actually, he's 47 years old. He can't back up.
38. He's going strong.
The dark horse I want to chuck in is Bernal. I reckon he's the dark horse for top 5. Just quietly.
That's a good point, yeah.
Probably like more serious than my semi-serious Derek G, second on the podium on the Champs-Élysées, which I'm going to leave there. But
my dark horse, I think I'm going to put Rodriguez in there. I just like him. I think Ineos is going to back him. And Thomas, who is on Life in the Peloton last week, Durbo, if you'd listened and caught up to date, you would have heard that he is riding the Tour. I had Big G on there. He mentioned that he's really happy to be in the supporting role and going to support Rodriguez as a dark horse.
What about you, Turbo?
They're all pretty proven GC guys. I just think you can't really counterweight. Like, is Primoz a dark horse?
You should have said Jai is your
that would have been a good dark horse. Yeah.
But he's already won the Giro. He's not. They're all non-dark horses. Jai,
but he's going in as a supporting role. You can't change. So who's your 5th then?
Will doesn't mean he gets removed. Like Derek G's your dark horse, Tom.
No, he reckons G's going to finish 2nd.
Obvious favourite.
Okay.
So who's your dark horse?
Jai.
So who's in your top 5?
Thomas, put him in there. Go on.
Geraint Thomas is in 5th then.
Yeah.
Oh, right. Hard bargain.
So, boys, over to my take on things in the old Talking Tactics corner. Thinking about the same discussion, really, but coming from the other side. How a team gets built, how we go about that, like from the from the team's perspective. And I mean, a lot of it starts, when you sign riders, because some riders you sign for, you sign a guy like Richard Carapaz. It's obvious that he's he's a big ticket rider who's there for the biggest race of the year. And then there's a lot of other factors that come into the way that a team gets built. And so we generally start in December with like 12 guys. That can always change as well. There's guys who could potentially come in quite late, like that aren't in that original 12. But that 12 gets whittled down around these races, around this period. So those guys will all have in their head that, from quite a long way out, that they need to get ready and be prepared for the Tour de France, which I think is something in your case, Mitch, and we've obviously had that this week with guys who basically are in the best form of their life, getting a phone call that basically says to them, you've done great, you've done nothing wrong, but
It's not good enough.
it just doesn't fit. And I even remember in your specific case, it's like you'd improved it loads in an area that you wanted to bring to the team something, but the team didn't balance out that way. Which is kind of a weird thing for a rider who's, been to an altitude camp at the top of their game to then sort of go, okay, I have to take some time off and then do this all again to get ready for another target later on.
Well, just to quickly ask, what about on that note that Durbo said, keeping the riders sharp and on their toes and playing that game? Is that actually true? Or is that just something we build up in our minds as riders that, these guys are playing with my balls, they're really just trying to keep me guessing the whole time. Is that an element of it? Like if you say to a rider in January, hey man, you're in the tour. Don't worry about anything. I know you're going to be good. Just lock yourself in from there. But you're like, nah, that's a bad tactic. We need to keep this guy on his toes until a week before the tour.
I mean, certainly in our case, it's not something we've done in past years. In general, the things that come into it around this period, because it is like, is form, sickness, crashes, team composition, character, and then commercial as well, which realistically, it's a part of our sport. But I think it's more a case of a team waiting till you've got the most amount of information on all of those things I've just reeled off to make the decision, because you never want to have to undo it. So if you say to a guy, you're going to the tour, and then you have to call him and say, oh, actually, you're not going to the tour, that's worse than not knowing and then finding out you're not going. It's really delicate. I mean, there's guys Ben Healy, for example, would have had a pretty good idea that he's going to ride the Tour de France, and then he would have got a phone call. You have a group of riders who are elevated on a kind of a different plane. So it's like, okay, what do we want to do at this race? Are we going with a sprinter? Are we going with GC? Are we going for stages? What does it look like? Who needs to help them? Kind of like you'd build a football team, It's like, here's your striker, midfield. You have to build it up, and then so that it all is all based on what's our best chance, what's our leader going to do, what does success look like for your sponsor ultimately. Because you might have a sponsor turn around and say, like Movistar did, it's like, right, put the whole team on the podium in Paris and win the teams class. Then you need to think, we need to put 3 riders into the breakaways that get 15 minutes. Who can go into a break? Then we need 3 half decent climbers. Or it might be you've got an absolute favourite out and out on a flat day, top class sprinter. So you want to send as many people behind him as possible. Or it might be that you're kind of going to go and try and get into breakaways to win stages or to win a jersey. Those things in recent years have become so coveted and so hard to do that even the composition of the guys that you take for that has to change. I mean, if you look at the work that Mads Pedersen does to set up Ciccone to go into breakaways, and the guy's ex-world champion, right? He's an incredible rider. And you look at the quality of the riders in the breakaway of the stage that Mohoric won last year, when he was being chased by, Bettiol, Van der Poel, just like, you basically have to be good enough to win a classic to be a breakaway winner at the Tour de France now.
You have to be a pretty good rider just to hold Pedersen's wheel if he's setting you up for the break. Pedersen was setting me up for the break. I'd be like, mate, I lost your wheel ages ago.
You go, mate. Yeah. You go.
I let the wheel go. Now you're in the break. Now you can thank me later.
Yeah. So there's a whole, it's all this big, from a team side, it's this big complicated puzzle that you have to put together. And it's hard for the riders because they want to know earlier, but you also want to give yourself as much space as possible to make the right decisions, because you've got to stick by those decisions and live by them. And I think
we always complain about the selection, and we're like, oh, this is just that we should know earlier. But like, you guys it's no one in your situation, Tom, I can imagine you don't want to call someone to say they're not going to the tour. That's like one of the hardest phone calls you have to make. So you want to, like you said, you want to be sure, and that's just part of the game. Like, a lot of guys eventually don't want to do the tour anymore because actually could be a month, a 2-month game of are you going or are you not going, and it's not a nice feeling because you're trying to, like altitude camps, you're giving everything to go to the tour, and you're like, I don't want to play this game anymore. I just want to know, in February I'm doing the Giro, I'm prep for that, or in March. I'm doing the Vuelta. I can just prep for the Vuelta. I'm going there 100%. So it's the way it's got to be, but it doesn't make it easy for both sides of things. But I don't think most teams are leading people on to keep them motivated. I don't think that's how it goes. It's just they don't really know.
The only thing I've come across like in that sort of way would be that we had a rider in mind that we hadn't told, because we thought the best thing for him would be to not say he was being considered, you know? So it would be someone who, it wasn't on their original program. They've popped up and they've done really well in recent races, but you don't want to freak them out saying, oh, if you keep going, you're going to go to the Tour. So you just like leave them there going well, let them do their thing. And then, you know, because guys often also receive not a surprise, like you did in your first year, Durbo, when you weren't, you know, it's like, probably Whitey had it in his head for a long time out that you were going to ride. But I think as a third year pro, if he'd said to you, right, you're going to do Giro Swiss Tour, your head would have fallen off as soon as you heard that. So you might do it a little bit the other way to kind of protect someone, and then you hope that they succeed enough to justify that decision. But you don't want to set people up to fail, you know. I think it's an unenviable thing to have to do. I mean, I don't do it. Charlie does it, you know. And he calls the riders who aren't going before he calls the ones who are going, you know, because it's a hard thing to do, and nobody wants to get that call. I genuinely don't envy doing that job.
Well, let's talk about the stages. And look, obviously we can't talk about every stage in this little podcast, and there's a million other podcasts that review it. So we're going to take a bit of a different angle. I've just picked out a couple of stages from each week and just want to hear your opinion of it, because you guys will be there racing or doing the racing in the car or on the bike.
A lot easier where I am, mate. I can tell you. Not really doing the racing, Mitch. Durbo's doing the racing. I'm watching the racing. Come on.
You got to, you still got to make the calls, mate. You still got to make the wrong calls and pay for it.
Get ignored.
Stage one. Well, like I know it's an obvious thing to say. We cannot ignore this, and not starting with a TT or a prologue. This is a brutal, hard stage. Look, it's got climbs all over it. 3,500, closer to 4,000 meters of altitude, 206K to start the Tour de France. You know, I think 4 times Cat 3s, 3 times Cat 2s. There's a lot of climbing out there. The last climb's 26K to go. Durbo, thoughts about this? What are you feeling? Have you even thought about this yet?
No, I definitely thought about it. I started to, once I got the phone call saying I was definitely going, I started to do a bit more research. How I feel about it, I feel pretty good about it because last year I'd say was the hardest start of the Tour de France we'd had in a long time in Bilbao. This is harder, but the stress levels are lower. One of the hardest things to do is a sprint stage in Copenhagen. That was filthy. You know, it's so the sprint jersey, when the yellow jersey's up to grab on the first bunch sprint, is one of the most gnarly experiences you'll do. Half the bunch already know they're not contested. Half the bunch will sit up. There'll be the GC guys. There'll be guys testing themselves. But, you know, even the climbers, they love it. And, like, honestly, no one's fighting for position into the bottom of the climbs, like not sprinters doing this. Like, it's a bit stressful because it's the first stage of the tour. And then, bam, straight away, stage one, there's hierarchy. There's form. There's people that have their position in the bunch. Yeah, it's good. There's already a GC guy already off GC because he's come in underdone. So yeah, it's just like for me, the good first couple of days of the tour this year are hard, and I think that's really good for safety, stress, everything.
Hey, well, I forgot to mention, it's actually in Italy. It's starting in Italy. First 3 stages are in Italy, starting in Florence. I want to fast forward to stage 9, still in the first week. Well, you know, before the first rest day, let's call it that, because we've got gravel involved. We're up in the Champagne region, and it's ups and downs. I don't know if you could compare it to Strada Bianchi. 14 gravel sections, 32K of gravel. It looks like a bit more of a sort of rolly, I don't know if I can say that, but just a bit more of an up and down sort of gravel stage. I've got no idea what the gravel roads are like around there. Southam, have you got any intel into this stage? I'm sure you've been looking into it. what sort of gravel are we talking about? Is this going to be as gnarly as they're talking about? Can you even compare it to, say, like having a Roubaix stage in the Tour de France?
To be honest with you, I think it's actually much, much worse. The gravel can vary, so we're going to look at it as late as possible. I think if cars go over it, it changes how deep it is.
Will you be just sort of going to the riders, hey, how is it out there? What's the gravel like? And then make a decision on the gravel?
No, we've obviously we've got people going, but I think we want to leave it as late as possible to see the condition based on, the ASO's banned all cars from going over the gravel before, which is interesting. So you're not allowed to drive on it with a service team, for example, to help the condition. If it's anything like Paris Tours, I can't see that it really belongs in the race, because it's not like a Roubaix day. The cobbles break you up with skills and stuff. Gravel's just like a lottery if you have a flat tire.
Are you going to change equipment? Are you guys running bigger tires?
Yeah. So we've got the Flanders set up for that. The only risk that day, it's not a particularly hard day. The risk is someone is from the GC is going to have a flat tire, and it's going to be really rubbish for them. Which in my opinion is different. The Roubaix stage, you might take a couple of Roubaix specialists to help your GC guy out, and they have to learn to ride the cobbles. But then the cobbles, they're also there's a chance you're going to puncture. But the gravel can be quite a lottery. We'll see how it goes. Maybe it looks spectacular. I did the Giro in 2021 when we were on the right side of that with Hugh Carthy, and we gained quite a bit of time in the GC. I think Remco lost an absolute heap of time that day. But that was a much harder day. That was also really hilly on the gravel, whereas these are just sectors. So remains to be seen. I might eat my words. It might be a great stage. Maybe it will be spectacular.
Well, I know we've gone straight to stage 9. I want to rewind a little bit, because after that start in Italy, there's a whole bunch of sprint stages, and Durbo, I think this is going to be a big part of your Tour de France this year with Groenewegen. We've already mentioned him, but also Michael Matthews, a couple of stages that are pretty lumpy as well. Looking that middle week, because the back end of the Tour is really tough this year. 14, 15 is really big, and then you get into 19, 20, 17, 18, 19, 20. They're all big stages. So let's just quickly talk about those sprint stages through the middle there. Is there been a focus from the team around those middle stages?
Definitely. We are focusing on them. Obviously, Dylan's going to be hopefully one of the fastest sprinters there. We've actually sort of added Chris George-Jensen also is in the team. So, we're going to we'll have to be realistic. I think we'll have to ride, because there's not as many sprinters as there was at the Giro. So controlling those days, and we saw last year, controlling those days pretty difficult. The breakaways can be classic riders up the road and you're chasing them. The day Askren won last year, we couldn't actually close a group of 3 that was in 20 seconds. So it's we'll put quite a big emphasis on that. So yeah, Chris, myself will probably be in charge of bringing that back. So yeah, big emphasis. We've got a lead out for it. I think the other big one is obviously Alpecin with Philipsen. So yeah, probably only 1 or 2, possibly 3 teams with Mads Pedersen to help to control those days, which Tom and you see on the TV, they get pretty desperate when teams haven't done stuff. So, regardless if it's a flat stage, it doesn't matter. People are going up the road full gas if they haven't got anything out of the Tour de France yet, and they're trying to get stage wins. So, yeah, that's they're hard. They're really hard. They look flat, but they are really hard to get the composition of the brake right and to get it.
Campanart's off the bumper of the red car.
Exactly.
We are fast forwarding a lot, and I did make mention of it, but we can't talk about every stage. I want to just go straight to sort of the end of the race, where instead of finishing up in Paris this year, we're finishing down in Nice because the Olympics are on afterwards. But stage 18, 19, and 20 are ridiculously hard stages. It's something like 3,000 meters of climbing, then 4,500, then almost 5,000 meters for stage 20. But then they drop into, you guys are going to drop into a Monaco-Nice 33K time trial, which has got 750 meters of climbing. Just quickly from both of you, the idea with finishing a time trial in Nice, just quick thoughts about this. Are you happy about it? Are you sort of like, I hate this idea? What's the thought? Because it's been, ever since the tour's been around, you finished up in on the Champs with the champagne shower, rolling around, giggling. Now it's going to be a bit more serious.
From my side, I hate it. Firstly, you have to get 2 buses because you need a bus at the start and a bus at the finish. Secondly, you got people all over the place. Thirdly, it's like so many guys in the race will not be in the race, you know, but you can't just like cruise a TT. Imagine getting eliminated. You know, it's like, it's just horrible in so many ways, in my opinion. To finish,
I could understand a Nice
TT.
TT. You know, like big boulevard. I mean, it's still not as good as a Nice circuit race, but a Nice TT would be fine. Short, sharp, kind of like, you know, exciting. But this is like a proper. This is a stage 20 TT. That's what it should be, not a stage 21.
Could have done a hot dog, Durbo.
Yeah, I'm ready to go.
Hot dog
I'm ready to go.
Should we get into the Communique quiz and wrap this thing up? Because I know you boys have got to head to the tour. I've got to get some sleep. I am flying out in less than 12 hours. So let's get this Communique quiz happening.
Right, boys, Communiqué quiz. This episode, I am going to got a little bit of a cheat. I have got Matty Breschel, my fellow sports director's pro cycling quiz game cards here. And so Matty made he made a board game a couple of years ago, which has characters like little things you have to go around the board, and it's cool. It's a great game that Matty made, but it comes with 5 different types of question. International, they're based in international, Belgium and Holland, Spain, Italy, and France. We can do 1 question each for both of you. To kick off is to find out who goes first. Okay.
I've got so many questions just about that game, but we just have to get on with it.
Great. Yeah, we just got to get into it, but I'll have to order one.
So to kick off, to decide who goes first, question for both of you. Jump in when you know. Which team, after winning their first 4 games, hilariously got knocked out of the T20 Cricket World Cup last night?
Australia.
Come on, Mitch. You know, mate.
Yeah, it was pretty embarrassing. Durbo already said it. Australia.
Yeah. Right. Durbo, you go first. What we're going to do, I'm going to pull a card out. I'm going to read out the 4 options for the question, and the other person gets to choose which one you answer. So Mitch is going to choose which one you face. So Mitch, Durbo faces a question on national championships, World's Road Race, World's Time Trial, or Tour de Suisse.
World's Road Race.
How many times did Greg LeMond win the World Road Race Championships?
Once.
Incorrect.
Oh.
Twice.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's a 0. So Mitch's international question. Durbo, same thing. Nationals, World's Road Race, World's Time Trial, or Tour de Suisse?
Nationals.
Who became the National Road Race Champion of Spain in 2021? Whew.
2021. Was it who's the sprinter guy from them? Joaquin
Cortina.
No. Joaquin is his first
I'm going to
name.
start using this little timepiece that comes with the thing because there's an actual time limit.
I'll use a different one. God, I can't even remember any of the Spanish riders. You can't have any clues, can you?
Nah, look at this timer. Look, it's running down there, mate.
Okay, all right. What about I'm just going to go for Valverde. It's not right.
No, it was Omar Freire. So, 0-0. So, Belgium, Netherlands. I'm expecting big things from you guys in this. Mitch, do you want him to take a Flanders, Amstel, Flèche, or Liège question?
Oh, let's go Flanders just to make it fun.
All right then, Durbo. Which US rider completed the Tour of Flanders an impressive 17 times?
Oh, it's easy.
George Hincapie.
Correct. It's 1 for Durbo. Durbo, what do you want Mitch to face?
I'll give you another Flanders then.
Which climb in the town of Brakel was for many years a key point in the finale of the Tour of Flanders until 2011? Berendries, Leiberg, or Ten Bos?
In the town of Brakel.
Mm-hmm.
Berendries.
Nope.
Wrong.
Do you know? Steal a
Ten
point,
Bos.
Durbo?
Ten Bos.
Damn it.
Yes.
So, Spanish options. Mitch, San Sebastian, Vuelta, or San Sebastian or Vuelta? That's all we've got here. So which one for Durbo?
Vuelta.
All right, Durbo. In which edition of the Vuelta did the grueling climb, the Alto de Angliru, feature in the race for the first time? 89, 99, 2009, or 2019?
I know that.
2009?
No, Mitch, you want to take that?
99?
Correct.
Yes. Suck it.
Nice.
Back in the game. So, Durbo for Mitch, San Sebastian or Vuelta?
Sanseb.
Oh,
Which Belgian Omega Pharma
Keep him out
Lotto
of the game.
rider won the Classica San Sebastian in 2011?
Gilbert.
Correct.
Easy.
Scores a level. Back level.
Oh, yeah, baby. It's on.
So, Italy is Strada, Tirreno, Sanremo, Giro, or Lombardy?
Lombardy.
Phew. Which
Good luck with that one, bud.
Which decade saw the first edition of the Tour of Lombardy? Whoa, that's hard. That's hard.
Was it multiple choice or not?
All right, I'll give you multiple choice. 1890, 1900s, or 1910s?
Tens.
1900s, 1905.
Oh, that's a good guess, Seb. I wouldn't have had no idea.
So,
Lombardy is so
Durbo
old.
for Mitch, Strada, Tirreno, Sanremo, Giro, Lombardy.
No, Lombardy then. Stitch ya.
Oh, jeez. Matty really went to town on Italy. Historically, Italy has taken the vast majority of victories in the Tour of Lombardy, but how many times did an Italian win the race between 2010 and 2020?
210, 220. 4 times?
Incorrect. Twice. Both times were Vincenzo Nibali.
Nibali.
Right, last country, boys. France, Paris-Nice, Paris-Roubaix, Dauphiné, or Tour de France? Mitch for Durbo.
Let's do the tour in the light of this podcast.
In the 2019 Tour de France, Mike Teunissen won stage 3, becoming the first Dutchman to wear the yellow jersey in 30 years. Which Dutch rider wore the yellow jersey before Teunissen?
Oh, easy.
Adrie van der Poel, Eric Breukink, Jelle Nijdam, or Joop Zoetemelk?
Zoetemelk?
No, Eric Breukink.
Oh, I would have said Zoetemelk too.
So, with
Not
the
that easy.
scores level, 2 apiece.
Tour, Mitch.
Tour for Mitch. Name 3 Italian Tour de France winners.
Moser. Francesco Moser.
Incorrect.
Moser never won the tour.
I get to jump in then, do I? To win the game?
Wait, Pantani. Can I get 2 then?
You got Pantani? You can still get 3. I'm not going to see if you can get 3.
Nibali.
2.
Pantani.
Yeah.
And Bass, no, didn't say it.
Fausto Masnada? No way.
What about I'm so bad. I've forgotten his name. Who's the most
It's pretty
handsome
poor.
Italian rider?
It's pretty poor that you can't remember this name. I feel like disqualifying you just for not remembering this name, Rich, to be honest with you.
Oh God.
This is an absolute travesty for cycling, for this podcast, for the Tour de France, for Italy.
Can I get it to win?
Yep. Get it to
Okay,
win.
go.
Copy?
Just think of the most obvious Italian rider. in
Yeah,
history.
I know. I can't think.
Copy, wasn't it copy? No?
Falso copy.
Oh,
Yep. There you go.
Charles Copy. I said copy.
Did you say it
Oh.
before he did?
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
Yeah, I said it before. I said
I
copy.
couldn't.
There you go.
My brain cells are too
Durbo
dead.
wins
All right.
3-2. Mitch goes out.
Very
So you-
poor.
Easy.
That's a good one
Right
to lose
before.
because this is the first time we're actually going to see you, Mitch, and the beers are actually on you for the whole Tour de France now. So whenever Durbo or I run into you, which is the first time all year it could actually have happened, it's your shout, mate.
Well-
So
I'm happy to shout inside the village. Let's do it at the town. The free beers.
free chicken wings.
Boys, it's been a pleasure. I can't wait to catch up with you in a couple of days. So let's do it then.
Nice.
Look
Thanks.
forward to it.
Good travel, boys. And
Thanks, boys. See you in a couple of days.
see you soon.
That iconic music in this episode was composed by none other than the legend Pete Shelley. Cheers, mate.